Hey, what's going on, guys? Here are my thoughts and first impressions of Spear, as well as a few builds I've been using. Keep in mind, this is just 2 weeks after the Spear's release. I plan to make a more in-depth guide to Spear after I spend more time using the weapon. I just wanted to get this video out there, share my thoughts and how I've been currently using the weapon. So here are my thoughts on Spear and how I see the weapon being currently used in PvE and PvP. This point of view is coming from a Greatsword Dagger main, and I've tried Spear with each of these weapons. When it comes to PvP, Spear doesn't have the best single target damage, especially when compared to a Greatsword. The CC Spear has is pretty good, but they all have long cooldowns because most, if not all of them, are AoE. So far, the playstyle for PvP obviously depends on your other weapon a bit, but as far as what Spear brings, you can play either the Burst or the Ignite playstyle. Burst being more single target focused and overall feels a bit weak, and Ignite revolving mainly around clump AoE bombing with Javelin Inferno. Currently, I think the Javelin Inferno playstyle is by far the best way to take full advantage of Spear, with its only real downside being mana, as Javelin costs a ton of mana. The build lacks if there are no other targets to chain your Javelin to, but in ZVZ, your burst and kill potential is insane. Javelin Inferno can be used with any weapon combination to add a little bit of AoE burst, but for ZVZ PvP, I've been playing Spear Dagger. Dagger provides the best support for boosting javelin damage and provides very good defensive utility with the evasion from the Shadow Walker passive and stealth from camouflage. These defenses allow you to build insanely greedy for damage, which synergizes very well with this build. The playstyle with this build revolves around building javelin stacks, getting in position outside of a clump, popping your buffs, and tossing javelins into the clump and killing as many people as you can. You can only build 5 javelin stacks at a time to start off that combo, but any kills that you get with a javelin grants you an additional stack. So the more damage that you deal, the more kills that you get, and the more kills that you get, the more javelins you can throw, and the more javelins you can throw, you can get more kills, and you can kind of see where this is going. Other weapons that seem decent with Spear are SNS and Greatsword. SNS Spear would be a disruptor and engager like all SNS builds, but with Spear you have a bit more AoE potential with damage and crowd control. However, this build can lack in mana sustain if you're not getting targeted to regen mana from blocking. Greatsword's looking like a good middle ground between assassin and tank playstyles. You're building more like a bruiser instead of full damage, but you're less tanky than an SNS. This build seems interesting, but I'm not 100% sold on this playstyle, at least in tier 1. You need a dedicated healer as you're trying to be in the mix for an extended period of time, and you're going to be taking more damage than an SNS. I can definitely see this combo being strong, but requiring more help to sustain than a Spear Dagger, which can burst harder and keep themselves alive with good positioning and camouflage. Currently, between Dagger and Greatsword, I think Dagger is just the better build because you're making more of an impact with a larger burst and not requiring as much team support, allowing your healer to help others in your party. Alright, so here's the very basic fundamentals of Spear with the Spear Dagger and how that's going to look in your combo. Generally, you're going to try to pre-build your javelin stacks whenever you can, whether it's a tank extended, a PvE mob, maybe it's the boss that you're fighting over, whatever. Something on your side of the field that's safe to attack, you want to pre-stack. That'll give you the javelin buff for 30 seconds, and then you can safely from a distance find the clump, pop your heavy attack, pop your poison, pop your umble, and just send those in. And if you want to continue, you Shadow Strike in, you build more, and you Shadow Strike out, and you send more javelins. That's the benefit of pre-stacking, and it goes a long way. You try to get in the habit of that in dealing with that 30-second buff and those 5 stacks. If you notice, you have to press Explosive Fury 5 times to get 5 javelins. If you only press it once, you get 1 javelin. If you end up pressing it and then somebody goes out of range, it's going to go on cooldown. It's kind of a finicky skill. If you get crowd control, it can mess it up. So try to get used to dealing with that, building 5 stacks, and sitting on them beforehand. If nobody's engaging on your side of the field, there's no boss to attack, nothing. You have to engage in the clump without anything prepared. You can do something like this. Pop your heavy attack and your shield, your poison, umbral, you Shadow Strike in, you build your 5 stacks, and you Shadow Strike out with Shadow Escape, and then you send them back in with the buffs. That is a greedy way to do it, but sometimes you have to. You can Shadow Strike in, get your heavy attack stacked because it goes by how many people are around you, so that is a benefit to it, but you can do a bigger engage having pre-stacks with double the amount of javelins. If you have pre-stacks, Also, and you want to fit in something else, and you have camo, and you want to kind of greed camo for damage, you can do this instead. You want to heavy attack buff Unyielding Sentinel first, because you cannot do this in stealth. So you pop this, then you camo, then your other buffs, and you walk your way to the pack. And we're going to open with Phoenix Barrage to guarantee the crit, and then we'll send javelins from there if we had them pre-stacked. If we don't, then we're going to build and then try to disengage and send them. The kind of big combo would be to have them pre-stacked already, but let's just show the engagement without any stacks at all in a Phoenix Barrage. And then we pop our poison in stealth, and we walk up, and we just send the Phoenix Barrage into the clump, and then we try to get some space. Hopefully nobody targeted us, otherwise we're probably going to be dead. Throwing some dodge rolls and some parries for the Liqueris buff. Somewhere in there would be good. If you were to pre-stack and do all of that, you could basically Phoenix Barrage into immediately throwing javelins, which I would recommend. That's probably the biggest kill potential that you have, whereas like the safest ones would be to just throw javelins from a distance. You do not need to have your buffs for javelin to do really good damage, so maybe you just use everything, pretend all these are on cooldown, but you built stacks, you're sitting on some stacks, just walk up to a clump and throw the javelins. The javelins are doing a lot of damage. This just really enunciates that damage. You can always pop your lightning infusion with it. It lines up well, but Thunder Spirit's only going to be like every other. So that's kind of the very basics of Spear and how you're going to be doing it. Any other crowd control and utility is just kind of up to your discretion, whatever you want to do. This is just a added AoE cleave, and it's kind of nice just to throw in there for little poke damage, but that's where we're at so far. I'm going to keep min-maxing what I want to do for the generic PvP combo. I have a small scale combo that I'm working on, trying to figure out what's best, but I haven't really narrowed that down yet. This is kind of what that looks like. It's more so just Dagger stuff with Mad Sword Dance and Thundercloud Bombing. This is stacking the Thunderclouds itself, which is why I don't need Thundercloud here. I can run Poison and get close to 20 stacks depending on offhands or whatever. I'll give you a quick rundown of what that looks like. You just Shadow Strike in, Ankle Strike, double Sword Dance, reuse your Poison, and then Thundercloud Bombing. And that does a lot of damage. Anybody that's not a bow and that's a squishy, that's going to probably kill if they don't have any melee defensives. The bows are a little bit tankier because they get that devoted shield barrier at the end, and you're going to have to use some of your other cooldowns, but that's a really fast and easy combo that I'm finding pretty effective. But like I said, I'm still trying to min-max the small scale aspect, but compared to Greatsword Dagger, it just feels worse in every way. It's really interesting though to have the AoE cleave potential. It's just as an individual fighting another individual, you just kind of feel weaker. When it comes to PvE, I've been using Spear with Greatsword. This combo pumps the damage and provides insane party buffs. The AoE potential for open world dungeon farming is unmatched with the Javelin AoE. Greatsword covers any mana issues from Javelin with the Victor's Morale passive. You can build AoE for dungeon clearing and swap to a single target build for the boss. I even used a full AoE build to clear sheep in challenge mode tier 15 Valley last week. The single target damage is top tier, along with providing your party with 200 heavy attack as well as 82 skill damage boost from the Javelin base skill. The multi-hits from Spear also synergize very well with the Deadly Marker from Bow, giving solid cooldown reduction. In terms of DPS between Dagger and Greatsword, I think Spear Greatsword comes out on top for sure. Alright guys, that's the end of the video. My builds are linked in the description below, so check out my quest log. The Spear Greatsword PvE damage rotation is in the quest log description, so check that out. Thanks for checking out the video. Like I said earlier, I plan to do a more in-depth guide for Spear once I get more time on the weapon. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys on the next one.